Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. Wow. In about, oh man, how many hours do we got? In about 12 hours or something like that, 10 hours, all chaos is supposed to break out in Iran. Until then, I think we just chill here, yeah? Well, actually, the treasuries have made a fairly decent move since the open, so that's interesting. We're going to have to keep an eye on them. Let me come in first thing and adjust our data levels. There we go. And we'll come in and look at the charts. So here we got the treasuries. You know, it didn't end up doing all that much yesterday. Had a little bit of movement overnight. I guess we're at the higher end of the range, so that's good. In the S&P, or sorry, in the treasuries. In the S&P, okay. Oil, you know, I'm afraid that oil could get really out of control soon. I mean, if things start, you know, when bombs start flying tonight, it's gonna go crazy. Who am I kidding? Donald Trump is somehow gonna pull some deal out of his butt before that happens. It's always how it goes, isn't it? It's not always how it goes. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this situation in the first place, would we? Gold not really doing anything for 3 days now. How's that? That's curious, isn't it? It's like all of the speculative money came out of the metals and they have been left for dead. Which I think speaks well for gold and silver in the future if we get past this conflict, or maybe perhaps if inflation becomes a thing. Although last time inflation became a thing because of real rates and everything, it didn't. But yeah, I think maybe it's still worth having some gold and silver. Copper, okay. Japanese yen also suspiciously quiet. Very suspiciously quiet. And Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin actually did okay yesterday. Jumping back up to 70K. But I mean, gosh. It's not necessarily the action that I want to see after a day. Like, they should have taken off by now. Well. Something's gonna explode, says Uzi. I guess. It really is, like, I would say that most of the time when Donald Trump sets a deadline, because this is always how it goes, isn't it? Donald Trump sets a deadline. The closer the deadline gets, the louder he gets. He starts using expletives and all of this sort of stuff. And then at the 0th hour, all of a sudden, oh, actually, we have a deal. And it's delayed. It's always... That's like most of the time, but that's not really how it happened with Iran, is it? It's just setting up an insider trade. No, I think that he is doing his thing to negotiate, and he will, and I don't even know if it's him. But then people will place insider trades around it. Like one of the things that really just drives me crazy is that everybody seems to think that this insider trading thing is unique to the Trump administration. It's because it's just not. It's just not. And I wonder if maybe it's getting more attention Because the advertising for Kalshi and everything is getting super hot. Like they're really, really push. Because I don't does Kalshi really have that much activity? Like I know they're making money and they're growing, but it's not like a huge thing yet. The amount of people that I see on social media complaining about betting markets is not congruent with the amount of volume that they actually have, which says to me that it's really a bunch of butthurt leftists that are upset about it because they saw an ad, right? Just the thought. But so, and he knows that, you know, there's rules and there's gray areas and things like that, and he has no problem with people taking advantage of it, is what I think. But I don't think that he's doing it specifically to set up insider trades. You don't have to. You don't have to. There, even if it wasn't Trump, right? There is enough things always going on in government to make money from insider trades, regardless. There always is. So it is really just, that is how he negotiates. And when you read his book, you hear how people that like contractors and stuff that got stiffed by him and these sorts of things, right? You'll get it every time. It's the same pattern. So set some deadline where he's going to do something crazy, like he's going to sue you or something. And the closer to the deadline it gets, the louder he gets publicly. And then in the background, he's like, "Oh, you know what? We can make a deal. Let's do this for you. Let's do this for you." All of a sudden, he's being super, super nice, and people fall for it and make the deal. But not Iran. Not Iran. Why? Because Iran is a theocracy. Yeah. So, in this case, I kind of think there's going to be bombs flying tonight. I'll put it 50-50. I think I put it 50-50. I don't think I'm willing to go on record saying I predict that there will be military action tonight. I think it's likely, but they can, you know. Did Jigsaw fix that bridge yet for Ninja Trader? Oh, I don't know. They did have something, didn't they? Oh, that's cool. Oh, support for Ninja Trader 8 live connection is here. You can now, your account can now connect directly to Day Trader, no bridge required. That's the old blog post. You're looking for a more recent one? Because you want a bridge. You want the... Because that only allows you to connect directly. So you can only use Ninja Trader or Jigsaw, not both right now. Is that the situation? I can use both. What I can't do is have a live and a sim account connected to both. Oh, okay, I guess so. What will you be trading today? Well, so my focus is on the treasuries. I'm thinking I'm probably unlikely to take a very dedicated, or, you know, like I might see a opportunity of something where I know that there's a little bit of a small technical advantage for me and take it, depending on how focused I am. but I'm probably not going to take a trade where like I'm really in it and I'm really holding it all session and that sort of a thing. Just because people are going to be weary about taking on risk ahead of Donald Trump possibly attacking Iran. So I'm guessing what Uzi is doing is he has Jigsaw connected to his live account and NinjaTrader connected to the demo account, and then or something like that. Or maybe it's he has them both connected, but if he takes a sim trade in Jigsaw, he won't see it in NinjaTrader because there's no bridge to send it back. Oh, that's different. Okay, I can. So it was the latter. I can be in Jigsaw and NinjaTrader both connected to my live account. NinjaTrader is connected to both a sim and a live account, but I can't also connect the sim to Jigsaw. It's interesting though that NinjaTrader will let you connect both of them without a fee or anything. But I guess you're right. It's not a huge deal, is it? Unless you just want to be able to see the position on the chart trader. I wonder how important of a feature to the success of NinjaTrader do you think the chart trader is? I bet you that's probably one of the features that's like, okay, for a lot of traders at least. Not really for me, but for a lot of traders, I bet you that it's one of those things that's like, okay, I can't use NinjaTrader anymore. I need a new platform. And that's probably one of their like must-haves, is that if it won't show them their current position on the chart and let them enter their position on the chart, then they won't use it. Yeah, really the only problem is if I want a sim trade, I have to do it. Well, I mean, really, if you want a sim trade, you're going to do it through Jigsaw anyways, because it has the better fill, algorithm, right? More realistic fill algorithm, rather. Which I believe then wouldn't flow back to NinjaTrader anyways, so... So let's see here. I got a couple of things on my mind. Oh, I was thinking about our conversation yesterday. I would still like to know, like, if there's something I'm supposed to be or you wish that I would be talking about as it pertains to like social issues. I'd like to know what it is. But I'm kind of thinking probably nobody actually cares, right? That's really the problem. So Seth thinks that he has insightful things to say about social issues. And probably he does, but nobody cares. Because ultimately, on social media, it really seems like it's all about the spectacle. Like, talking about the clavicular guy, right? Because what I've seen so far, I'm not really like that impressive. Like, people are acting like, oh, the girls are just all over him and all this sort of stuff. And I don't really see that. What I see is just a guy going up to a lot of girls in a club. Like, and, you know, some people were criticizing me yesterday, like, no, that's not what it is. I know what the problem is. You guys don't go to clubs. That's what it is. Well, Mari doesn't go to clubs, right? I bet you Mari doesn't go to clubs. So he doesn't understand that going to a club, being a rich guy, and talking to girls like that, they'll usually at least talk to you, right? Because what happens is you talk to the girl, You invite her over into the VIP section, the bottle service, all of these sorts of things. She drinks her heart out, and then she ignores you. Doesn't come with you. Or the one that he really, really wants will ignore her. Or like there'll be the table next to him of the supermodels, and he actually wants the supermodels to pay attention to him, but they won't care. And so in the back of his mind, there's always kind of like, well, I got a girl to go home with me, but it wasn't the one that I wanted. That eats at them. So the thing that's kind of weird is that these kind of people are often extremely insecure for whatever reason. So if you haven't gone to a club and seen those dynamics before, watching it on YouTube maybe is entertaining and or like impressive to you. But it's really not impressive if you've been to a club a lot. Clavicular content is such a dime a dozen scheme. Yeah. Do you think he's really actually like his opinions on things like the misogynistic and racist sorts of things that he actually believes in, or does he play it up for his audience? Probably he plays it up for his audience. No streamer is real. That's what I need, guys, is I need an issue that people are really passionate about, that they'll watch my content. Okay, well, hold on. Is something happening? It's moving up there. So my news squawk doesn't have the news yet. It's a matter of time before he gets trying to have sex with a young boy. Probably that is the way that those things tend to go, isn't it? Jeez. I don't know. There is definitely a what do we call it? Confirmation bias with that sort of a thing. But the number of times that there has been somebody that's become famous through social media, and then whatever the ironic crime would be, it comes out and it happens, kind of makes me suspicious. Kind of makes me suspicious, to be honest with you. Yeah, the bigger your audience, the higher the odds. So what I need is this issue that I can build a huge following by just pounding that one issue all the time, even though I don't actually believe it. What do you think would be the best one? I mean, there are some people are really into being upset about insider trading. So you know, that would be in line with like the audience and everything. But I've kind of already like talked about that one so many times. They're gonna drag up the old clips and say, "See, Seth, you don't actually care. You're looking for any place that you can to do insider trading legally." 100%. Like that is my number one. So I'm collecting as much information as I can, and of course I know the rules. There are situations where it's insider trading and you can't do it. And I have several occasions been in possession of insider knowledge and could not act on it. I just had my platform set up to watch it when it got released to see what happens, but didn't trade. Okay. But if I know something and it's in that area where it's legal, I'm 100% going to do it. 100%. That's what the market is there for. It's for the people with the money and the people with the information to do their transactions. A. Paul says, please not that. Oh, the flat earth is a hot topic after the moon mission. Flat earth. Dude, if I tried to become a flat earth influencer, nobody would buy it. Nobody would. There is nobody. Every flat earther would come on my stream and be like, "You don't actually believe in a flat earth." They would just know. They would just know somehow. There are some things where it's like if you're on the in, it can kind of be a little bit hard, right? To tell. Okay? Like if I go to a rave, okay, there's different groups of people, right? There are some people that are just there for the clout or for the party. I don't know what percentage of people that is, but there's a lot of people that are just there for the clout and the party. So I was saying about the clubs, it's like it's a certain type of person that tends to go to clubs, and a lot of those girls, especially that are at the clubs all the time, are really more clout chasers. Okay, so you're already getting a certain type of girl. But there's also the people that are really there for the music, and those are really great people, right? So how do you know which one it is? Right? You're like at Above and Beyond rave, talking to people. How do you know if she's really actually into it or she's just a poser? Well, you ask her, what's your favorite Above and Beyond song? And if they don't answer Sun and Moon, then you know she's full of shit. That's just the way that it is, because everybody knows that that's everyone's favorite Above and Beyond song, right? Or if you say it has to be, pick an Anjuna Beat song that wasn't made by Above and Beyond, they're going to say Amsterdam, right? That's just because there's not necessarily things in their behavior and that you can really say, but you can ask them the question, right? You can ask them the question. In trading, what you do is you ask them, what is your opinion of current Federal Reserve policy, right? And if they say, like, I don't know, or who cares, then they're a poser. They're not a really, they're either a poser or they're not a very good day trader. Okay. If they're a swing trader, I'll let that pass. The swing trader doesn't necessarily have to know as much about the fundamentals. Okay. But if you're going to be day trading, probably you should, if you go and you apply to be a trader at like one of the big commodity houses, like say Cargill, right? They will ask you, I guarantee you, they will ask you, what is your current opinion of current Federal Reserve policy? And here's what you do. Here's what you tell them. You say, well, it could be better. That's what you see. If you say, well, I really like Federal Reserve policy, we're in a really good spot, right? That's not a good trader. That's like you know what's going on, but you're not a good trader if you think that everything the Federal Reserve is doing is like all perfect and hunky-dory, right? Like in some form or another, you've got to be, a good trader is going to say, well, here's where they get it wrong. Here's the thing that they're not very good at, right? You could maybe be a little bit stronger and you could say, oh, it's absolutely terrible. But that kind of person often tends to be a little bit too ideological and can make bad decisions on it, right? So I would shy away from that one, and I would just say it could be better, right? That's the correct answer to that. I'll give you guys some homework, okay? Go to other streams and ask them, what is your current opinion of current Federal Reserve policy? Why do I keep saying, what is your current opinion? Go to other streams and ask them, what is your opinion of Federal Reserve policy? And then, like, when they answer it, like, you can like clip it in YouTube. You can like make you can make a clip to like, and then come and send it to me, okay? And we'll see what other trading streamers are saying, right? Because if they come in, you go there, and ask them, and they're like, I don't know, or I don't care. Poser, we got them right there, and in there, right? That's how you know. Okay, but when it comes to flat Earth, I don't know. Is there a question that you can ask like that they'll all answer it the same? I don't know. I don't know enough about flat Earth culture. That I think that there would just be things about the way that I talk and the way that I think that they would immediately be like, there is no way that this guy believes that the Earth is actually flat. I thought they wouldn't believe me. There's no way they would believe me. Meowbruv says, many don't care. They just trade using technical analysis. Yeah, that's why I said that they're either a poser or they're not a very good day trader. Because to really have a strong edge on the intraday time frame you really have to have some degree of informational edge. The market is so statistically efficient. There's just not very much room for us to really trade purely off of technicals anymore. You can do that on a swing trade. And the ironic thing is most of these like famous traders, like the turtle traders, for instance, everybody talks about the turtle traders, right? Turtle traders, they're proof that technical analysis works. Well, yes, but they were swing traders. They weren't intraday traders. Works on a swing basis, okay? Momentum, a momentum portfolio is a real strategy. And by the way, there's a lot more involved in it than most retail traders realize, but it's totally something that I think you could do. Well, I don't know. I've never really seen somebody be successful at it retail. You need a certain amount of capital, but you can do it. You can try. But on a day trading basis, you've got to have something that predicts those future orders, and an understanding of the informational side of the market is the best place to find that. And the places where you can find like a purely technical edge like that, it's like the technical edges can help you if you have that larger informational edge. But if all you have is the technical edge, not very good chances that you'd be successful. So you're going to have a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, they just trade technicals. They're going to say, I don't know, or I don't care. That's how you know that they don't really know what's going on. Because if you really truly understand the market, you'll understand that the market is more statistically efficient than it is informationally efficient, which means there's more edge available on the informational side of the market. Try it. Just try it, because I guarantee you, the posers, like the people that are like, or the charlatans especially, they're going to tell you they won't know. They won't know. It's kind of wild to me that people could come in and be watching financial markets every day and not know what's going on with the Federal Reserve, like what interest rates are and what they say. Like, this is just so crazy. Like, you're really just not paying attention. And the funny thing is that I've known several guys that I knew made decent money from their day trading activities. And they would say that it was purely technical. And then, you know, they would always take a trade and be like, well, why are you taking that trade? That kind of breaks this rule. That kind of breaks this rule. And it was always a special case. It was always and they knew every time, right? It was a special case. But then if you ask them, what's your current opinion of Federal Reserve policy? They would have one. They would have one that was like, it could be better. They could be doing a better job than what they are. For certain places where they're wrong. And yada, yada, yada. Right? They knew that they were following the market. And what was happening is that they were making all of their decisions based off of that. And they weren't even consciously aware of it. I've seen that multiple times. Try it. That's your homework. Go to other streams. Ask them what their opinion of current Federal Reserve policy is. And clip it and send it to us. Maybe we'll make like a montage video or something. I don't know. I was thinking about making a video like, we need to be, you know, with the spectacle, right? Again, it just seems to me like to be successful on social media these days, you need the spectacle. There was a time when YouTube was really good to learn about like niche hobbies and things like that. Like, I have been searching about fountain pens and calligraphy stuff, right? And all of the videos that I see about that stuff are like 6 or 7 years old now. Like all the way back from 2018. Because what happened was YouTube changed the algorithm to, you know, push stuff to the front page. And then the Mr. Beastification of everything happened. So now there had to be some sort of spectacle, some sort of really clickbaity reason that people were going to click on that on their homepage. And less traffic was going through, I'm searching about this topic and finding something from that topic. And so the things that were like niche hobby, etc., 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 those guys all just gave up and they don't really make a whole lot of content anymore. And so a lot of the like informational content on YouTube is old. But I was thinking, okay, if I made a video that was kind of more along that vein, like what's the most drama-laden thing that I could do? Make a tier list of day trading influencers. And take all the day trading influencers, right? If they're a charlatan, we just put them immediately in the F tier. We could do that. That might be fun. I had it all playing out through my head in that day. I was like, yeah, this is probably like the best thing I could do right now. And now I think about it right now. And I'm kind of like, do I really care? See, like I would like the YouTube channel to be more successful than it is. But then every time that I look at what are the things I could do that would really make a meaningful difference on that front, and just don't want to do those things. I just don't want to be involved in the drama all the time. If I was younger, I totally would have done it, right? Maybe when I started the channel, I probably would have totally been all over it. But now I'm in my 40s, I'm just kind of like, think all that stuff is stupid. I kind of wonder if the internet will always be primarily young people, just because the older that you get, the less interesting it will become to you. Because it's all just stupid drama. Oh, I missed a couple of comments here. I've been trading from night. Yeah. This channel on Sunday turned 9 years old. So if you go back into the channel archives, you can see basically every session for the last 9 years recorded here. And I don't miss. It's not like I've seen one thing like I really like Devin Nash when he was doing streams. He doesn't really do it as much anymore, but he makes content. It's still pretty good stuff. It's really crazy. Like I really admire him because he'll make content and it just takes off and he does really well with it, and he can live off of it with like hardly even trying. Just because he's built up the audience already. But, you know, one of the things is, you know, people will come to him, oh, I'm not having any success with streaming. And so he'll go in and he'll look at their stream and be like, you only streamed 1 day this week. You only streamed 1 day this week. Nah, I stream literally every day for 9 years. Well, it's probably I don't trade long enough, right? If I was here for 8 hours, like if I was here until the market close, because a lot of people, they're just asleep. It's too early for them, right? And then it's only 2 hours. But if I was here later in the afternoon and I was here for 8 hours a day, probably it would be more successful. Probably that's my point. But anyways, but in terms of like the value of it, because if you want to see the order flow, if you want to watch a DOM and learn kind of how the order flow tends to go, because it is kind of an intuition thing. So you just watching it, you keep in the news and like what kind of a day it is. And I talk about that stuff every day at the beginning, the things that like I know that could potentially affect the flows that day. And then you watch the order flow, and that's how you build the intuition of it. Have 9 years of videos to watch. So there's no shortage of past events, and you can go and look at, okay, when Brexit happened, what was the order flow like? You can come and watch it on my channel. So we've been doing it literally every day for 9 years. Uzi says, it was always curious how in the time of censorship in recent memory, their efforts to protect us from misinformation excluded flat earth content. Well, I don't think that that's true though. Is that really actually true? Because YouTube took down the UFO, or sorry, not the UFO, the flat earth content very much so. Like there was a point, and it was when they made that documentary. What's that documentary called? Where they follow a couple of flat earthers, and like I think there's just like 3 different groups of flat earthers trying to prove that the earth is flat, and each time the experiment that they created shows that the earth is round. Like there's the guys, they've got this gyroscope compass. Okay, so an Iranian source is saying there are negotiations with the US. That's moving the market. It seems like a very, very tepid sort of a thing. Like they are talking. Flexibility will be shown when we see flexibility from the US side. Doesn't really sound to me like, okay, it's a step in the right direction because they're talking, but it doesn't sound to me like that Iran is willing to make the concessions necessary for this to happen. Anyways, they had like a gyroscope compass, right? And then they should see it change. So they got this $10,000 compass and they had to put it in like a sphere so that like a Faraday cage and everything, so that there couldn't be anything else affecting it except for the movement of the earth. And then it still showed that the earth was round. Or then another guy, he was doing it with a laser, and the laser showed exactly the amount of curvature that you should have, and that they're all like puzzled, right? There's like I think it's on Netflix. You can watch this documentary. And flat earth became a big, huge thing. And so when that happened, YouTube basically throttled the content. Like, I think that you can still have a flat earth channel on YouTube, but if you do, you will basically be ignored by the algorithm. Only people that subscribe will see it. And they might even like lose subscribers and have to resubscribe multiple times and things like that. Mm-hmm. So at least here on YouTube, in fact, I think that here on YouTube there's probably as much censorship on that topic as there was COVID. Flat Earth and UFO content were both okay in the world of misinformation policing. I would say that the throttling of the Flat Earth content happened long before COVID. Like, I think the throttling of Flat Earth content happened in like 2017 or 2018. So maybe it was because they felt like they'd already done everything they can for it. I don't know. But it also kind of shows you like their ability to actually like put a lid on certain kind of discussion is not very strong. Okay, Meow many. Oh, no. I think order flow isn't marketed enough. Many traders or those who want to learn still only look at technicals and try to trade. Yes. So it's improving. There's been a group of people from Italy and France where for whatever reason, particular influencer has kind of taken off. I find most of the time that these people talking about order flow content, that really they're just kind of doing the same thing with technical analysis, like that they do on a chart, but they're doing it with order flow. They have these conceptions of how order flow is supposed to work and like what setups are supposed to work. But if you actually go in and like backtest them, you find that they don't actually work. So the things that I teach you about in order flow, if you go to the order flow video series, right, I very much try to keep it to this is what the data is, what you're looking at, so you can understand what you're looking at, and then explaining the empirically proven properties, the things that we know for sure do happen. Okay. And how that can potentially help you. Also, you know, how that explains why the market behaves the way that it does. So just watch that whole thing. It all come together. I think that's really good content. I think it's the best content about trading on YouTube, and it's certainly the best content about order flow trading on YouTube. But there are some people, primarily in other countries like Italian and French, that have taken off with order flow. I think the primary reason why order flow isn't more popular is because the majority of these kids that get interested in day trading can't afford it, essentially. Because to do what we do, you basically have to pay about $40 a month for your data feed. And then you might pay up to $50 a month on top of that for your trading platform. And these kids that are really doing this, they want to just do they want to just like pull up a trading view chart, right? That's the majority of them. And then there's a smaller subsection that they're just doing like funded trader programs. I guess you can get order flow on the funded trader programs, but yeah, that's why it's not as popular. So I suppose if in the future the data gets cheaper, maybe it could become more popular, but that's probably the biggest barrier to its popularity. So you basically have to spend $100 a month to do it. Okay, what do you got here, Uzi? Insiders just started dumping all risk assets except oil ahead of U.S. market open. Every single insider is nonstop selling billions. Zero buy. I don't know how I feel about that. That's like, so how do we know that what he's showing is all insiders, quote unquote? How are they setting that up? I don't know. Doesn't actually look like all, it just looks like 50% of it. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what happens. We did have overnight a decent sell. We had a headline come through that was positive, just stuff to consider. Oh, we had a headline came through that was somewhat positive, and the market did kind of move around on it, but it didn't really last, did it? Didn't really hold. I think that probably there could be a lot of hedging on the downside today. Like, and I don't know if insiders know anything, but you know that the large funds are probably going to be hedging ahead of this. Because, man, you know, I'm kind of a little worried that, like, have we already done enough damage to our supply chains, both oil and fertilizer and things like that, that we've already really done some serious damage that is likely to result in a recession, and it just hasn't hit us yet. Like we can kind of still keep the markets afloat on hope, and eventually the supply disruptions will start actively affecting us. Similar to what it was like in COVID, where, you know, it wasn't until like a year later that like started getting the inflation and stuff. And then it was like, oh, why is everything all of a sudden cost a ton? Well, because there's a supply disruption. You can't build a puzzle with missing pieces. And I wish that I could consider this a puzzle piece, but this kind of, wow, it has 1.6k retweets and 5.1k likes. That's wild. Because all I see is like, well, I guess I don't understand their platform either, right? There are some that are really red and some that are not. It's about half of them. So how is that everything is a sell? But whatever. It's FinViz? And is it like FinViz of like block trades or something? Yeah, Artemis 2 imagery is cool. Well, I saw the dark side of the moon image. That was pretty good. To see the dark side of the moon in better color. Is there some other images that I hadn't seen? And go to their insider tab. Okay. Insider. Oh. I see. Proposed sale by... Okay, so I don't know if I can tell just from the colors what are buys and what are sells. This is going back to March 31st. So, I actually can tell you, I've been looking at this sort of a thing a lot recently, and I can actually tell you a little something about this that might be causing this, actually. So let's try and find, actually, this first one right here seems like a good example. Oh, cool. It takes us right to it. Okay. So, you want the code. Transaction code V. V indicates that a transaction was voluntarily reported earlier than required by SEC regulations. Okay. SEC, let me do this as a form of transaction. Okay. So, SEC Form 4 transaction codes defined by the SEC identify the nature of transactions by company insiders, directors, officers, 10% owners. Key codes include P, purchase, S, sell, A grant/award, M, option exercise, F, tax withholding, and G, gift. Okay. And the key one that you want to pay attention to, or that matters here, is F, tax withholding. So what happens is the company awards them in a certain number of shares, right? In order to deal with the taxes, they just have them withhold a certain number of the shares. And so that will show up as a sale, but then when you look at the code, it's actually F. So when you come in here and you're looking at this, oh, right, sorry, this page right here, you're probably going to see a large portion of them at this current time in April are going to be F, because it's tax time, right? Tax day is like in 15 days. And this is when also when a lot of like the bonuses and things like that are given out too, is in March and April. So when most companies do their bonus. So I wonder if I can find an example here though, where we're going to find that it's an F. Because it would be more useful. It would be more useful if you didn't put Fs in there. Well, I haven't found an F so far. But it doesn't allow us to filter that. But yeah. So for that and other various reasons, I think that this time of year you would be more likely to see insider selling overall. So I don't think that in and of itself should be too shocking or like scary. Turan Times says all diplomatic channels have been closed with the USA. So, I saw a guy talking about this the other day, so maybe it's just on my mind. But, his whole point was that we have this tendency to think of a government's actions as being all coordinated by one single entity. And the reality is actually that governments have competing factions. And especially now in the situation where the supreme leader was basically killed and like nobody really knows who's in charge. So you're going to have competing Iran factions and they're going to put stuff out. So when we get a headline like that, we should ask ourselves, who is it? Well, this time it's the Tehran Times. So that could be the IRGC saying that. That could be the foreign ministry saying that. It could be. But we just had a headline a little bit earlier saying somebody saying that they were talking. But the way that headline was posed was like, yeah, they're doing stuff, but they're not like saying that they're willing to compromise on these things, right? So I think everything kind of points to Iran is not going to meet the deadline. But I'm not willing to call it because Donald Trump always seems to pull these things out of his butt at the last second, right? You should write a seasonal analysis of that behavior. We should. Well, I should do a study about a seasonal analysis of that behavior, right? We could come in and we could say, we could take every transaction and we could give it a mark-to-market dollar amount and then, add up the dollar amount buying and dollar amount selling and the net delta per day, and then do that over a 10-year time period and average out the results. And then you could see seasonal patterns in insider buying and selling. And we should see, based on what I know, and I guess we should call it a theory, but that you see an increase in selling in March and April. And furthermore, you would probably see that a large portion of those cells would have code F, which is that it's for tax selling. Now, going back to that chart, by the way, did I close it? Why do I always do that? Yeah, it's up to date. Today's the 7th. So the database that this comes from, Edgar, apparently it is like as soon as they file it, like within 24 hours it shows up here. So you can get you can get good data. I would say if you're in an individual stock, you should be watching these transactions for the individual stocks that you own. I would look at that. And then start asking questions like, okay, this executive is doing this. Maybe they're doing it because they're getting close to retirement and they need to convert some of it, right? But maybe it's because that business is stagnating. I would say that in these ones that you see them do their own purchases of shares, that is not related to like, oh, this was given to me for a bonus or whatever. Okay, like for one of my stocks, Rare Earth Resources, every once in a while you'll get all of the executives buy options at the same time. Buy that thing. Because they knew that their plant was going to get approved and that stock like quadrupled. And I saw it, and I was like, well, I don't know anything about this, so like, how common is this? And is this really a good sign for the stock? Well, it turns out it was a great sign for the stock, so I should have bought options with them. I'm just realizing, hey, we get like a whole extra hour today because it's a Tuesday, right? That's good. We get, because sometimes it's been like, okay, we talked about this and this and this. Kind of got, but I haven't gotten everything out of my system. I just kind of got the beginning stuff out of my system. Like what we were talking about yesterday, which I don't know if you guys are that interested in talking about. So let me ask, so I want to put another thought in you guys' head. So this is more of a like, okay, I gave you homework, go and ask other streamers what their opinion of current Federal Reserve policy is. So I was reading yesterday, almost everything that I hear about AI is pretty negative and apocalyptic. Like AIs are going to dominate all work and there won't be any work for people. Okay. Well, I have some problems with that. like if AI does all work, nobody gets paid for labor anymore, the economy is just going to collapse. There's not going to be any demand for anything. So that's not going to work. And this idea that you're just going to give everybody a basic universal income isn't going to work. I'll tell you why. Actually, can I give you an example maybe? Actually, well, let's try this. Do you guys remember this thing? It's Powder Game 2. Yay. So in Powder Game 2, I can come in and I can say, let's make some vines. And I'm just going to make everything vines. Like I'm really going to... Oh, okay. I can only fill up like half of it with vines. And then set it on fire. Come on. Oh, wait. I'm going to have to erase a little bit, aren't I? Where is it? Erase. Yeah, let's restart. Okay, and then I can set it on fire. All right? And the whole thing is going to burn up. And then it's burnt. Whoop-de-doo. Okay. We want to create a complex system. We want to have something that does a bunch of things. So I can make some vines here. And I can put some seeds on it. All the seeds are going to float around. We want some water for the seeds. That'll make it grow more. Oh, I love this game. It's so much fun. So much fun. Okay. Now I'm going to set it on fire. Okay. And when I do that, the fire spreads the seeds. And then it creates new growth. And it also creates these turbulences to move around. Right? So now we have a complex system, right? And stuff is moving from the place where there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff over here, but there's not, I didn't put as much stuff over here. So it's going to move over to here. And it's going to kind of move in this cycle. Right? So the point of this, I'm sorry, it didn't make as good of an example as I wanted. But the point of this is complex systems require differences. Right? If every pixel on this whole thing was the same, if the whole thing was a vine, and I set it on fire, then all that would happen is it would just all burn up and then that would be the end of it. It's kind of like this thing where you talk about forest fires, right? Because what we're doing is we're simulating forest fires. Is that if you don't allow fires to happen sometimes, then you'll get one big fire that just takes everything out, and then everything's dead, and you're really screwed, right? So they have little fires. And why is that? Because you need to have some areas that are old growth and some areas that are new growth. And it's having those little differences and stuff that create the dynamic system. Okay? So now applying it to our financial system, here's the thing that people don't want to hear. If everybody made the same amount, it wouldn't work. There has to be some people that are rich and some people that are poor, or this system doesn't function. If everybody makes the same amount, then they all have to pay the same on, you know, things. Because how's it going to work? You give a basic universal income, but you live in New York and I live in Salt Lake City, and rent over there is twice as much. So are you going to get twice as much basic universal income because you live over there? And then everybody's just going to move to where, you know, it's not, there's going to be all sorts of problems with that, right? And then what's going to happen? The people that own the property, they're going to increase the cost of their properties until it, you know, matches the demand for it, right? It's supply and demand. So you when you do a basic universal income, you get one of two things will happen. And it, again, has to be universal, because we've done things where it's like a small little experiment, and they think that that shows us what will happen with basic universal income. No, it doesn't. It has to be universal. It has to be truly universal. Everybody in the country gets it. Okay. And in a large country too, right? A large, really economically important country like the United States. Okay. Everybody gets the same amount. You either get total system collapse, or it just adjusts and it doesn't help you at all. Doesn't change anything. You see? So this idea that AI is going to take over everything and nobody will work anymore and we'll just all live off of basic universal income, basically contradicts everything that I know about complex systems. And it really is a complex systems question. It really is the complexity economists that are the ones that I would trust to be able to answer this question about how it's going to go. So, what are some alternatives? Well, let's say you're doing your job, okay? And when you complete a task, you have a backlog of work, right? Now, sometimes completing a task, you just complete it and then you're picking up the next thing. But sometimes completing that item frees up other tasks. Like there are tasks that were dependent on that task, and now those tasks can be done, right? So I have this one blocker, and once I finish that one blocker, now there's like 3 other tasks that somebody can now start work on, right? And how often does that happen? Where completing a task actually puts, so we think of like labor supply and demand, but there's more than that. There's always more work than there actually is labor demands, right? Because the business can only afford to pay people so much, essentially. So most businesses have more work than their employees can actually do, right? And they could hire more people, but they can't afford to do it. So that work just doesn't happen, right? And then there's also just tasks being generated at a regular interval, right? And those tasks that get generated at a regular interval that get put into the backlog is somewhat dependent on you like completing those tasks, because you complete those tasks. If those tasks make a difference to the company, help them make more money, then that could, as they make more money, that could potentially mean that the pace at which new things are added to the backlog increases, right? So this is the kind of a complex system that we would want to model, to say, okay, what pace of backlog items being added and what pace of doing this item frees up other items for you to do, right? And those are some variables that we can kind of tweak around to find out the point at which, you know, AI creates more work or destroys work, essentially, right? But I'll tell you what happens in the places that I've worked is that if it was like for every task that you do, it frees up one other task, then the amount of work that's available to be done would be constant. But it's not. Every task that I do opens up like 10 other things that could possibly be done. And those things just never get done. And so what I'm finding is that being more productive using AI and getting a lot of things done, it's creating more work for me, not less. Creating more work for me, not less. So I think Mark Andreessen is right. Like, AI is coming in at just the right opportune time where we're concerned about we're concerned about population loss and things like that. But now everybody will be able to be more productive, so maybe that won't be the end of society. And there are possibly even some situations where there's not going to be enough people to work. You're going to have more work than people, and companies are going to have to pay people even more because people can do even more, and there's not as many people really willing to work and do the things. That's a real possibility that nobody talks about, because basically everybody that's on this AI train are hyper liberals from California that really secretly just want communism. And so this is their fever dream that, like, well, it's resources that prevents communism from working. So once we're in a world of complete labor abundance, then we can get rid of capitalism. No. Why? Because you have to have a dynamic system. And if the sort of thing that you're saying is like, I want to take all of the dynamic elements out of the system and then think that it will still function. It won't. It'll just die. So people will still work and people will still make more than other people. Man, I tell you what, the E-mini really is, or sorry, the treasuries are really getting hammered there. I want to say, like, there was Iran was talking and there was a little bit of movement, but then it didn't go. But then after the E-mini opened, they've been moving. Okay. Back to my analogy here. So if I am correct, which is that the way that complex systems work suggests that AI will actually result in more work, then here's how that's going to happen. Is that there's all of these small businesses out there that, okay, we're a struggling small business, and you know what? If we could just do this one thing, then we wouldn't struggle so much, right? Like we just have to build our business up to this point where it's big enough for, to do this thing. But we just can never get there because we can't hire the people to do it, right? Now all of a sudden, all of those things are filled, right? I can do that labor with AI. All of the barriers to growing that business are removed. Or I want to start a business. I have an idea, but I don't have expertise in that thing, right? Well, I can ask the AI. The AI can give me enough expertise in that thing to get myself up off of the ground. So at that point, what is the thing that would hold a business back that they need to do, you know, in order to start the business or grow or whatever? It's just access to capital. It's ultimately is just access to capital. I would like to sell my own trading platform. Well, I think that I personally have everything that I need to do that, and that I just need, you know, the time to do the work. And the AI allows me to do it faster, and I still have the expertise, so I don't have to just rely exclusively on what the AI says, so that it's not slop, right? I might be able to bootstrap that business. But maybe it turns out that to really get this thing going, I need to pay for advertising. I need these sorts of things, right? You're going to need the capital. And if there are people out there that, like, they worked for Microsoft and Microsoft has decided that they don't need as many people anymore, well, they overhired. They're maybe already, like, saturated their business. So maybe Microsoft won't have as many employees in the future, right? What's going to happen is people are going to move from corporations to startups. Like right now, very few people work in startups. And the ones that do are maybe kind of crazy to some extent. I kind of feel like you have to be a little bit crazy to work in a startup. Like there's a lot of risk in it. It takes a certain type of person to do it, right? But what I think is going to happen is larger numbers of people are going to be coming out of the corporate world and being thrust into the small business and or startup world because AI will enable it, right? So if we really want to have enough of those small business and startup jobs, we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to do something about that. So how are we going to do that, right? We need to make more capital available to a larger subset of people. So the whole thing is we can print money at will, but we need to ensure that as much of that money as possible goes into productivity, goes into actually generating things and stuff that's valuable to the economy. Because if you just print money and then they just sit on it, then that doesn't help. All that does is create inflation, right? It has to actually result in production. So that means that we're going to have to help more people to actually be productive. So that's going to mean more education about starting your own business and fundraising and things like that. But and that might mean government programs like, hey, if you've been laid off, we will, instead of saying like you absolutely have to, you know, apply for X number of jobs to get the job and all of those sorts of things. We could also say, well, if you were just laid off, we'll give you a year's worth. And I think it needs to be a year. I think that like most, it's like 6 months, 3 to 6 months is not enough. I think that you say, you'll get unemployment insurance no matter what for a year. And if you show us that you're starting your own business, we'll give you access to special loans for people that have just been laid off, for instance, right? Or maybe we have to create micro investing platforms, right? So right now we have the stock market. You can go and you can own part of the stock market. But what if there was a platform that was just a bunch of people that have business ideas, and you can go and you can invest in that and get equity in that? I believe that there are kind of platforms like that, but it's a little bit like weird because they have to like limit who can actually participate in those things and stuff like that, right? So laws are going to have to be changed. We're going to have new platforms. I call it micro investing. I think that in the future, micro investing will be a thing. Platforms where there's a new opportunity to invest in an initial offering for a business every day. And you do that every day, and maybe 1 in 5 like blows up and you make money. And now you're playing like the venture capital game. Yeah, only rich folks can access them, I guess. Yeah, I wouldn't say that you have to be hyper rich, but you probably have to be in the upper 100,000 a year range. And depending on whether or not you have kids, then you can start to participate in those sorts of things. But they're doing things to make it more accessible to you. So then that gets me thinking, what about giving people equity in exchange for their work? Right? Okay, I have a startup. I don't have any cash flow yet, but I'm building something. So you can say, I'll give you access to the repository, and I'll give you ownership in the company based on how much work you do. Right? How would that work? It seems like the basis of an idea, but how do we make a system that does that actually works well? I think this is a problem that we need to solve, because like you look at open source, we're having these issues with open source where like people are spending a lot of time developing open source projects, and companies rely on these open source projects, but then the person maintaining it isn't getting paid at all. And then especially in the C# ecosystem, they're like, okay, we need to change it to like, you now have to pay to use this library or whatever. And some companies don't want to do it, or like, you know, it's a shift on them. So everybody that can't afford it, they have to redo it and use a different library now, and all of these sorts of things. And wouldn't it be better if we just had a system that allowed people to make money from contributing to open projects? Like I have a project, it's open, anybody can contribute to it. And then for every piece of your code that gets pulled in, you get a certain share based on the complexity of that. Like there's a bounty. We have tasks. There's a bounty attached to each task. If you complete that task, you get a certain amount of shares, ownership in that application. Right? Except for that, the problem with that is that if you make it open, anybody can access the code and just take it and do whatever you want with it. So then the code has no value. So how do you do that? Because I kind of feel like that it would be really nice to make it easier for you guys to help me build my platform. Just to the point, like if you wanted to work on the platform, I can give you access to the repository. But I don't know how I would work it out. Like, okay, you've done some, like if one of you guys comes in and starts doing a ton of work on it, then how do I say, okay, when we start making money off of it, how much of it belongs to them, right? You have to make some sort of an agreement. And there are definitely ways of doing it, like the way that startups work for like small numbers of people. But I want it to scale. I want a system that can allow thousands of people to work on a system and build it, and all of them make money from when that project takes off and makes money. Huh? So I want you to think about that. What is a system that we could, because it really is kind of like a dynamic system, right? There's these sorts of things where it's like, you've got to think about all of the rules and put together a system and see how it plays out and run the simulation to see if it would be a good system or not. Right? And then we start to actually try them. And these are I think the actual challenges of our day. Once people, like 5-10 years from now, once we've realized where the limitations of AI are, or what the actual impact on the economy is, and that it doesn't get rid of all the work, then those will be the sorts of questions that we'll really start asking. How do we give people more access to capital, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Because what is the visual? So the point of the visual is to show that in order to have a dynamic system that continues to run, because this whole time I've been talking here 30 minutes, this has just been going on its own and I haven't done anything. And why is that? Because I've got multiple elements in here. I've got the water and the seeds and the fire. Fire burns the plants, spreads the seeds, and causes winds, pushes them to another place where there's water, and then they grow. And so it's able to continue to move, and eventually that system builds an equilibrium. But it's not the same everywhere. It's not the same everywhere. There are some areas where there's more growth. There's some areas where there's more fire. You see in the middle of these circles, there tends to be a little bit more growth because the fire doesn't come and hit those as often, right? The simulation has to be, what would be the word? Heterogeneous, right? If it's homogeneous, if everything was just covered in greenery, and then I came in with a fire, the whole thing would just burn up instantly, and you wouldn't get this dynamic system. So this is the way that an economy works, because everybody in the economy is trying to squeeze out the most that they can. It's based on supply and demand. And so the reason that it works is that there's going to be some areas where there's too much supply and some areas where there's not enough supply, places where there's too much demand and not enough demand, right? And then people go in and create businesses and stuff to fill those up, right? And so you have a constantly moving, evolving system. That means, by its very nature, there are going to be some people that make a lot of money and some people that don't make very much money. And the unsavory thing that you have to understand about a system like that is that that's kind of a necessary thing. It would be nice if the economic system kind of worked like this. That, yeah, there are some areas that they will go through fire, but then other areas will have greenery, and it's dynamic. And so everybody gets a chance to have good times and bad times. But at any one given time, there's going to be some people that are doing well and some people that aren't doing well. And that's necessary for the system to work. If you don't have that variety in the ecosystem just collapses. So if we think that AI is going to just get rid of that and make everybody equal, then you're going to destroy the economic system and society will just collapse. Which means, in order for the system to keep going, that's not what's going to happen. And maybe it really does turn into all work can be done by AI. That's a real possibility. It really is. It really is a real possibility that all work could be done by AI. I think that even in that world, that there will still be work. It's just like companies will start paying you for trivial things. Because basically, if they don't, there's nobody to buy anything. And then the system collapses. So like everybody works, but like maybe you only have to work 3 days a week. And what you're doing is really kind of trivial. Or maybe they're going to pay you to do something that's way more fun, that you just really, really enjoy. You know, like I always bring up this example that at McDonald's, they have employees that are just called corporate citizens, and their job is just to be there in the corporate office and be a fun person to work with, and they don't really actually have any real job. They're just there to be a part of the company. And that might become more common. There might be, hey, we want this person here, not because he has some skill or certain decisions that he's going to make or anything, but just we like the vibe that he gives. So he's going to be there. He's going to sit in on meetings and things like that, even though he doesn't have any responsibilities. Could happen. It's a real possibility. But the reason I was bringing it up is because I would like to pioneer systems of providing equity to a larger portion of people. I want to start a startup. I want as many people to work on that startup as possible. So how do we create a system that they can do that? Well, I'm going to ask ChatGPT here, but I wanted to have you guys think about it. Maybe, you know, you'll think about it over the days, and we'll keep discussing it, and you'll have more ideas, and then that'll give us better ideas to go. Let's think of ways that we can provide more people who gain equity from working in a startup. I could pay employees terms shares in the company, but I don't think that really scales to like thousands of people. So how can you build systems that would scale thousands of people participating in this? You're running into a very real constraint. Traditional startup equity models like stock options and RSUs are designed for dozens of people and maybe a few hundred and not thousands. The friction isn't just cultural, it's legal, operational, and incentive alignment. If you actually want to scale equity-like participation to thousands, you probably need to stop thinking in terms of equity as ownership and start thinking in terms of equity as programmable economic participation. Okay, that's a really weird term that it's just kind of pulled out of its butt, but let's see where it's going. So that's not a term I've ever heard before. Here are the main directions that actually work and their trade-offs. 1, revenue sharing instead of equity. This scales cleanly. Instead of giving ownership, give a slice of revenue or profit tied to contribution. How it works. Contributors earn points/credits based on code commits, research, sales, content, community building. A fixed percentage of revenue gets distributed periodically. Why this scales? No cap table explosion, no securities lot complexity. People don't need long-term belief. They get paid as value is created. The downside is it doesn't capture long-term upside like equity. People may optimize for short-term contributions, and this is basically turning your startup into a highly structured, incentive-driven marketplace. Okay, so they're saying, if you contribute, you get a certain percentage of the revenue for this year, but it doesn't give you long-term ownership. So it doesn't give you ownership for next year, just only for this year. This is what it sounds like it was saying. 2, internal shadow equity ledger or synthetic ownership. You keep actual equity centralized, but create a parallel internal ownership system. How it works. Every contributor earns units. The units track percent of eventual exit or percent of profit distributions. At exit or a liquidity event, payout based on units. Why this works. You can scale to thousands without legal overhead. Flexible rules, vesting, decay, performance weighting. Downsides. Requires trust because it's not real shares and people may discount the value. This is like building your own mini cap table engine. Okay, this one doesn't make sense to me because I don't understand how that's different from giving people shares. Unless you're saying, okay, it's not actually shares. It's like we have a company. Seth owns the company 100%. But if somebody buys Seth's company for $1 billion, then that $1 billion has to be distributed amongst the people that contributed based on the amount that they contributed. So that $1 billion gets shared amongst those people. But then after that, they don't own the new company. They just get the payout. Is that what it's saying? I know I'm playing with something right now, kind of listening, but employee owned, you know that term, right? When a business is employee owned. Well, yeah, but employee owned is just like a company with ownership shares that you can only own shares if you've worked in the company, and that's really all that is. So like, how do you convince people to participate when there's not already a revenue flow coming through? Yeah. I'm kind of feeling like that ChatGPT is kind of pulling on something here, but it's not really got the whole picture. Here it says cooperative / platform cooperative model. Think less startup and more worker-owned network. Oh, that's funny. That's what it mentions. Exactly what you're talking about. How it works. Contributors own membership plus governance rights. Profits distributed based on contribution formulas. Voting can be weighted by contribution. Or like open source ecosystems, created platforms with revenue share, designed for large participation, aligned incentives across many people, slower decision making. So I'm not entirely sure I understand like even what the differences between some of these are and how it solves our problems, but okay. Tokenized systems. If you want maximum scalability, this is the most scalable, but also the most dangerous and overhyped. How it works. Issue a token representing access, revenue share, governance. Contributors earn tokens. Why it scales. Near zero marginal cost to include market participants, built for global permissionless contribution. Regulatory risk. Incentives often get distorted, hard to tie to real value unless carefully designed. Most projects fail because they optimize for token price and not product. So like the issue is, I don't think that any of the things that it mentions really fix the issue, right? Which is that the more people that work and the more shares that you issue to people because of the work that they've done, the more diluted everybody's ownership becomes. So, you know, you can sit down and say like, there's a total number of RSUs that we're ever going to issue. There could be a cap on it. But like if you just say every unit of work is going to be a certain amount, gives you a certain number of shares. And then, right, there's a level at which the number of shares that we've issued relative to like what somebody wants to buy the company for or what the company is valued at works out to be like a pretty good payout. But the more that people participate in that, the less that payout is going to be. So there needs to be some sort of counter system that basically makes it so that more people participating makes your share more valuable, not less. It has an example 5, modular task marketplace inside your startup. This is probably the most practical for what you're building. Instead of hiring employees, break work into modular tasks, let thousands of contributors participate, pay in a mix of cash, revenue share, and internal units. Oh, it's got more. Wow, it has way more. It goes 6, 7, and then there's a conclusion. Okay, number 6, time decaying equity / contribution weighting. One big issue with scaling equity: early contributors get everything, late contributors get nothing meaningful. Solution: contributions decay over time. Points earned today are worth 100% this year, 70% next year, 40% after that. Keeps incentives aligned for continuous contribution, prevents dead equity weight. Okay, now that sounds like a more interesting... I don't know if that solves our problems, but it is an interesting thing that like, okay, you work today and I give you 1,000 shares. But then if you don't work next year with the company, then your shares are only worth 70%. And then if you don't work the year after that, they're only worth 40%. So now you have an incentive to do a certain amount of work with that company every year to keep your equity. That's kind of interesting. But it still has a problem of, if I have 1,000 people and I issue shares, you're diluting everybody's ownership. Reputation plus capital hybrid systems. Not everyone needs equity. You can separate reputation, status and influence, and economic rewards. Why this matters at scale: some people want money, some want visibility, some want learning/access. If you only offer equity, you miss a lot of contributors. It actually works in practice. If you strip away the hype, the most viable system is a hybrid: internal contribution ledger, revenue sharing, task marketplace, optional long-term payout. The deeper constraint: scaling participation isn't just a financial problem, it's an evaluation problem. Because if you can't, people game the system. Oh, wait. An evaluation problem. How do you measure contribution accurately? Because if you can't, people game the system, high signal contributors leave, and low value work dominates. And then it starts going into AI slop. Trying to relate it to me that I won't go into. So to your earlier question, the value goes up fast. Better hope really fast. The shares splitting value makes it drop less fast. I'm not sure what you're saying. I think you were trying to say something with few words, right? You're gonna have to explain it more. But the issue that I'm still getting is like, okay, you give people shares for some contribution. For every share that you issue, it dilutes. So profit sharing is interesting. While you work for the company, you get profit sharing, and you have a system that changes the amount of the profit share that you get. That would kind of encourage people to be like, stay lean. Like and you'd have to like get hired or something like that. But I don't know how many people would be willing to get involved in something like that without like a base pay, Yeah, I don't know, Ro. I don't have shares that I'm giving out. Yeah. Well, and I guess half of the problem here is how to structure it legally, right? Like, because I could just say, hey, I've got 3 guys that are really, really interested in contributing to this project. So we're all making a contribution. We split the equity up according to that. And then if you don't continue to participate, then your shares decline. And that's something that I think could work really well for a small group of people. And for what I'm doing, maybe that's what happens. Or maybe what happens is I just do it all myself until it makes enough money that I can pay people, right? But I would like there to be a system that allows large numbers of people to participate in systems like this. Basic, because I'm kind of envisioning a future where like the majority of money is made through startups and small businesses, and being a big business is kind of a weight. It's like too much overhead. They're not as profitable anymore. That's kind of what I'm thinking about. And something that in particular would be useful for like startups or my gosh. Like an alternative model for open source projects. I'm going to try and point it more towards compensation on people contributing to open source projects that aren't generating revenue yet. Short answer, there are real working models, but almost all of them are partial solutions. None have solved the thousands of contributors, no revenue, barely compensated problem cleanly yet. Number 1, direct sponsorship, most proven but limited. How it works: individuals or companies pay maintainers monthly or one time. Contributors can set tiers and goals. Covers any type of contribution. Evidence it works: millions of dollars flowing through the ecosystem via integrations like Open Collective. Ooh, what's that? GitHub sponsors Open Collective. Tens of thousands of developers participating globally. Where it breaks: highly unequal distribution. A few get the most funding. Only 40% of developers seeking sponsorship get any at all, and it doesn't scale well to casual contributors. This is the closest thing to baseline infrastructure today, but it mostly supports maintainers, not the crowd. That's interesting, actually. What's this website? So this is a whole system to, collect contributions and then pay it out to people to do those. That's cool, actually. Opencollective.com. So I already learned something really valuable through doing this. Number 2, and then it cites Open Collective again. An Open Collective style shared treasury. How it works: the project has a transparent fund. Money comes from sponsors, grants, and donations. Contributors submit expenses and get paid from the pool. Widely used across ecosystems like Babel, Webpack, etc. Transparent accounting builds trust. Payment is discretionary. Still depends on external funding. Doesn't automatically reward contributions. This is more like a non-profit with a shared wallet. Yeah. Grants and public funding. Examples: prototype fund, government-backed sovereign tech fund proposals. How it works: lump sum funding for building or maintaining OSS, often focused on public good infrastructure. Hundreds of projects are funded with large grants. Governments increasingly see OSS as critical infrastructure. Okay, so this is an interesting thing. So perhaps part of the answer to what will people do for work is that a lot of the work will come from government grants. Like, if people aren't taking out loans since creating new businesses because they don't see how that business is going to make the money back, then the government can give a grant, and that can be a way to distribute capital, still based on your participation. Okay. Bounties / paid issues. Specific issues get a dollar value. Contributors complete them, and they get paid. Seen in smaller experiments and platforms. Often layered on top of sponsorship pools. If funds activity, not urgency, contributors pick what's interesting. I think that we could do this, actually. I have a platform, okay, and oh man, how would the math come out to on this? let's say that I want to make, no, let's make it 300,000. Let's say that we want our platform to make $300,000 in a year, and we're going to sell it for $500. Then that means that 600 people have bought our platform. In a year, divided by 12, 50 people a month. That's doable. I bet you that Ninja Trader and Jigsaw get way more sales a month than that. Okay, so we get 50 people a month buy the platform, and Seth takes half of that to live on. Then the other half we invest into the company, and since there's not a ton of persistent expenses, 100 grand of that can be funded towards bounties. And the bounty could be, you made a custom indicator on our platform. If you make a custom indicator on our platform, then we pay you. And we could have multiple different ways of doing it based on which stage we're at, right? Like maybe there would be a contest. Maybe there'd be a contest and the top 10 get paid out. Like the top 10 get $10,000. And that would be a way to incentivize people to start developing on our ecosystem. That's an idea. That could work. Five, corporate-backed open source. Examples, companies pay employees to work on OSS. OSS is upstream of their business model. No direct monetization needed. Funding comes directly from cloud services, enterprise support, internal usage. Huge portion of critical OSS is maintained this way. OSS contributes massive economic value, but is underfunded directly. Hybrid fund payout systems, emerging but fragile. This is where things get interesting and the closest to what you're thinking. Pattern, there's a funding pool, sponsors/donations, explicit money, mapping money, tasks, contributions. Example, paid PR model, funding goal reached, issue becomes paid. Contributions complete, you get paid. Where it breaks, no enforcement, so no urgency. Sponsors fund motion, not outcomes. Hard price tasks correctly. This is almost a real market, but missing a key ingredient, consequences for failure. What's still missing and why this feels unsolved? Across all these models, the same gaps show up. No reliable way to price contribution. How much is a bug fix worth versus architecture work? Most systems default to popularity, visibility, maintainer discretion. There's no enforcement mechanism. There's no scalable attribution system. Very interesting. But I think this is the real problem of the future. So it's still going. I feel like we should just leave it there the whole rest of the stream. What do you think? Oh man, for whatever reason, like when I woke up this morning, didn't feel super great with my neck and everything. Like, I thought that I solved it. I really thought I solved it. Well, I think all I've got to do in this case is take an leave. Actually, I'm going to go do that right now, okay? Hit and Miss says NinjaTrader was recently sold for $2 billion to a crypto exchange. No, it was Kraken. It was Kraken. I seem to recall it being $1 billion. But yeah. I mean, so that's where it kind of gets into like, what's your payout, right? Like, let's just say 2 billion, 2 million, billion, $2 billion. And then let's say that the people involved in it worked an average of 5 years. Okay. So 400 million to split up. Wow. So in that case, you could have 400 employees and they would still all make $1 million each in their payout. You know what, though? I don't think that I would ever be able to sell my trading platform for $2 billion. Because the main reason that Kraken wanted it wasn't the trading system or any of that, but the futures trading brokerage. Or the futures clearing firm, the FCM. Merchant. Futures clearing merchant. The reason NinjaTrader sold for $2 billion was because of the FCM. So I'm not planning on starting an FCM anytime soon, so I don't think that I would get paid out billions of dollars. Yeah, you mean more like if you, the CEO, gets paid $40 million instead, while the employees get nothing but a new boss who will probably fire them. That's what really, yeah, that is what tends to happen. But you know, like, I think the thing is, okay, so let me approach this from a different direction. Not because I feel like, oh, it's not hitting. Usually that's like, oh, it's not hitting. Let me try and approach it from a different direction. But like, you see this conversation online all the time. Now kind of put this in there and it kind of, oh, okay. So like, the whole thing with communists is that they say that capitalists are exploiting labor, that labor doesn't get paid for the true value of their labor. The capitalist is skimming it off on the top. And of course, the common, sorry, what is the word? Counter. The counter to that is that, well, you didn't take any risk. Are you going to work if you don't get paid every month? You know, you want a job that's consistent and provides consistent income. And the person that creates the company is taking on a lot of risk. So they should get paid more when it works out, right? Well, what if the amount of risk that it takes to start a business is reduced? Then probably what you're going to see is more businesses created, employees getting a larger share of the business. You see? Oh, what did I do? Scroll down. Isn't that wonderful? It's kind of a pleasant thought, isn't it? If the reason that the owner of the company gets a larger share of the profits is because of the risk that they take, then if we reduce the risk involved in making a business, there will be more businesses and employees will get a larger share of the business. Yeah. That's kind of why I think that there's an incentive for me to just do it all myself if I can and bootstrap it, right? But I do kind of wonder, kind of seems like there's lots of people out there vibe coding and stuff, and they're going to try and vibe code their own platforms, right? I don't think their platform will be as good as mine. But that is a big risk that I run, right? I'm getting tired of our little simulation here. Virus. Oh no. What's happening? Oh no, the virus is completely taking over the ecosystem. What's going to happen? Oh no. The fire stops and everything just turns into virus. Hmm. Actually, there is something going on here because apparently there's some water. But the virus is slowly taking over here. Whoever vibe codes their trading platform and causes real money to be lost will probably have all sorts of issues. I mean, I think if you completely vibe code your trading platform, you're probably not going to get that far. And the problems are either going to be that the application gets too large for the LLMs to continue handling, essentially, right? Or there's just not anything interesting about the platform that would cause people to want to use it. So does the virus not take over water? So now the story that you were reporting earlier, Uzi reported earlier that like Iran has shut down all diplomatic channels with the US. I'm hearing on the news squawk. Market's not reacting to it because I think it's an old headline, but it's very odd, isn't it? So I'm wondering if I understand this thing right. If I make water and then I put a virus on it, it does. Virus and water seem to have some sort of strange interaction. Trump is threatening to destroy their entire civilization. The moves and the tape blitz and then stop. Oh yeah, totally. Because well, I would say actually there's a couple of interesting things about this market because liquidity is pretty decent. So for liquidity to be this high and see ranges in like 5 to 6 ticks is a little unusual. So there's like a high volatility for that. But then it will, yeah, it'll kind of like, it'll seem very directionless, right? There's the volatility there, but it's directionless, and then a headline will come out and it'll move. And it's kind of also weird that we had like, it was really on the open. They sold the treasuries really hard. It's a little odd. by the way? What's the dollar doing? Man, I'm super interested in all of the ideas that ChatGPT gave us there. But now I really want to find... Oh, actually, we can ask it. Yes. I think that what we really need to do is we need to find somebody that's an expert at this. Oh, I missed the question. Is today's action considered slow, and is it best not to trade in that slow action? So I wouldn't consider it slow because there is a decent amount of movement. So I gotta zoom out here a little bit. But when we look at this here, right, we're having all of these swings. Any one of those are situations where if you're in the treasuries, you could have made some money. So the movement to make money is there. The thing that's going to keep me out is the directionality of it, right? Like a day where we have a wide range and we go across that range 3 or 4 times can be some of the most brutal days. Those are the kinds of days that blow out many accounts. There's only a few people that are looking for that kind of action and are able to catch it and make money from it, right? The best kind of trade for us is something that's just consistently moving in one direction. It's just continually trending. That's where, if you know that it's going to trend, you can really do well, right? Now, if I have something that says like, yeah, Iran's going to come out and say something scary and then they're going to sell everything because of that, then you could have a trade, right? So it really has more to do with how predictable is the action, right? And right now, I suppose that we could have come in and tried selling it, saying, I think that the war is going to escalate tonight, so I want to sell it. And then you get your payout, and as soon as you get it, you get out, right? But now that it's done that move, I'm kind of really weary about taking any kind of a move. It gave me a ton of people to look up. Wow. Really wonder why I'm getting the nickname. And it wasn't like this at the beginning of the stream either. It's like as the stream has gone on, it's revealed itself. So what's with that? Is it something about this chair, the way I'm sitting in this chair, that hurts my neck? It does seem that the kids really amped up the lumbar support on this. I do often like to be 1 or 2 back. Maybe it's that. Let's try that. I am finding that having continuous prints on the tape is good for not getting underwater in my entries, so sometimes I have a clue about the direction, but the tape activity isn't there. Yeah. Because ultimately, what is volatility? Volatility is people placing trades, right? And so what you want is a situation where not only are people placing trades, but you can predict what trades they're going to place, which kind of lends itself better in a trend. In a trend, you kind of understand why, or preferably in a trend, you understand why it's moving. So some of the strongest trends are the really perplexing ones where you can't explain why it's moving the way that it is, right? And those are often just, you know, a large fund coming in and buying or selling something for nothing that has anything to do with anything, right? You'd have to know that that fund is going to have to move, but there are ways to know that. You should watch the funds and how they behave and try and predict their big moves. But maybe it's just a piece of news. You can get a piece of news and they can move all day on that move and just trend. And that's where you can make really good trades, right? That's where now you get the people placing the trades, and you know why they place the trades, and you know what direction they're going to place the trades generally, and you can just sit and write it. That's optimal trade, in my opinion. ChatGPT gave me so many people to look up here. So there really is a large number of people studying how to create economic incentives for open source. See, the issue with my system is it really can't be open source. Because if it's open source, then everybody just uses that. Oh, I missed this comment from Apol. It's the water and the acid that I combine. Okay, something's happening here, man. There's a lot of clicks. Oh yeah, there is acid. Oh, here we go. I was looking for metal so I could make like a vat. And then put water in the vat. And then you put acid in the vat. No, it looks like acid and water. Look at how wrong I was, I guess. There's a couple of different kind of interesting ecosystems that you can make with this and stuff. But I've seen people make super elaborate pictures and stuff with it. That's like, what? How did you do that? Crazy. Guerrero says Trump's trip to China is focused on keeping rare earths flowing. You know what's one that's really good? Is, well, so I like to use I like to use the vine a little bit, right? And then you've also got seeds, but then there's ant. And ants kind of will carry it in all of these strange directions and make these weird patterns. How cool is that? Water. And then you've got to add a little bit of, and you know, I don't know if I did something right here, it might just all burn up. I don't know if we've got enough to really create a self-sustaining ecosystem, but oh, okay, that wasn't too bad. What is this? It's Powder Game. Powder Game 2. Mercury, I forget what Mercury does. Other than it's just really heavy. Oh, interesting. There's also... Oh, laser. So in this one, because we didn't have enough water, it's not creating a sustainable ecosystem. It eventually the flame dies out. Yay, nitroglycerin. What do you think about capturing the spread on ZB when the action is good on the tapes? Is it a good strategy? So I doubt that you're going to make a ton of money from doing that. So the issue that you're going to get is like, you know, if I get in and I'm just taking 08 to 09 and I'm making $31 per tick, and that's really great, especially when it's moving around a lot and you get a really high probability of a fill. But the problem is how do you put your stop out there, right? If I say it goes one tick against me, oh, why did my news get disconnected? If I say that if it goes even one tick against me, I'm going to get out, well, then you got a problem, right? Because that's just as likely to get hit as your take profit is. So then you kind of have to have like a big stop relative to your take profit. So that your stop doesn't get hit. And then when you do get hit, it's a big loss. So what you tend to do is you just create something with a high kurtosis. Which is to say, you win most of the time, but when you do lose, you lose big. And you'll have a day where you lose a bunch of times and then you blow the account. That's what tends to happen to those people. So the real question is, what is the edge that you're going to have? Other than just knowing the volatility of the market that is going to make your target get hit instead of your take profit. Or sorry, it's going to have your target get hit before your stop. You need to have something other than the volatility of the market, because if you do that, then the results that you're going to get are just going to be equal to the volatility. And the way that the volatility works is in the end, that's not profitable. See how we don't have enough water, the ecosystem dies out. Put some cloud in here. You get some nice clouds. Clouds make water everywhere. And then we'll put some lava down at the bottom. Right. Now all of a sudden. I want oh, actually, you know what you can do is you can make oh, what is it called? Oh, that one's crystal. I'm not familiar with that one. Birds. Oh yeah, I forgot about the birds. The birds and the fish. There's birds, and then you can put where's it? Fish. Put fish in the water. And then the birds will come and try and eat the fish. But I want conveyor. Where's that one? Here it is. That's much more interesting. This actually shows another interesting property of complex systems, which is that there are like islands of stability. So like it will get into this mode where you get two vortexes, like all the fires coming up in the center and then it comes down around the sides. And that's kind of stable. And there's also one where it just goes in one big loop and that's stable. But then it'll go through periods where it'll be stable and then all of a sudden it destabilizes and switches into the other one and goes back and forth and stuff. Islands of stability. So let's see here. So it's a one-tick win or break even if you snipe the entry well with having a good continuous action. Well, but there's always going to be a situation where it moves against you faster than you expect, right? So, and in order for it to always be break even, you would have to have always caught the edge, right? So if you hit into it, you catch the edge, and then you're waiting for the fill on the other side. Well, and if there's any chance of you losing the edge, then you get back out. Well, you're going to get back out a lot, but then every once in a while, it is going to just tick down and you're not fast enough, and then you're going to have to take the -1. I'm curious what I did over here so that this area of water is able to sustain itself. Feeling the inflammation in my neck going down. Wow. We gotta get going, so... Virus. Destroy the ecosystem. And then you can destroy the virus with J-bombs. Oh, no, wait. It's not J-bombs that we want. It's... just keeps growing. I can't destroy it all. Maybe I need C4. Except for that, I need to not touch the bomb. Yeah. I suck at this. There's no stop if the action is good with both buying and selling on the tape and the entry is breaking. I mean, there's always a situation where you can get the adverse excursion. You can't. There's no way to guarantee that it'll always be break even. And I mean, ultimately, you're making money from the spread. In order to do that, you have to be able to get a good position in the queue. So it's really hard to do manually, essentially. Anyways, so I was wondering if maybe another headline was going to pop through here. Guess there was New York Fed inflation expectations, 3.42% versus 3.5%, but the treasuries aren't really reacting too much to that. We do have a 3-year note today, but I think that all eyes are going to be on what happens tonight. I really hope that things don't get too crazy. I mean, I would really like to see Iran, quote unquote, liberated, but I'm really worried about what kind of carnage is going to happen for that to take place. It'll be bad. Well, I hope, because, you know, especially with Iran out of the picture, that could be a really positive thing for human prosperity. So I think that the future looks good. It's just going to be a little rough this year, huh? Okay. Guys, I should get going. I will see you tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent.